Thank you, Christopher. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, my name is Vytautas Tvaronavicius, and I'm the head of technology and development of a company Plačiuostis Internetas in Lithuania, and I'm also the coordinator of the project RAIN 2. Plačiuostis Internetas in English means broadband internet. It's a public company founded in 2005 by the Ministry of Transport and Communications, and it's owned by the government. Our main aims are create broadband access and provide broadband services, prepare projects and implement them, also manage built infrastructures and organize their exploitation. Here you can see the broadband penetration rate of European Union countries. As you can see, Lithuania is much below the average. And why? In major cities, especially capital Vilnius, we have a great infrastructure. We have FTTH, we have UMTS, we have WiMAX. We have inhabitants have sufficient purchasing power, and they can choose the service, the technology, the service provider. The problem is in rural areas. Because of the geographical aspects, because villages are geographically scattered, so the infrastructure building costs are much higher than in cities. And also inhabitants of rural areas have much less purchasing power, so the private operators are not interested to invest to broadband infrastructure in these areas. So Lithuanian authorities decided to justify public intervention to construction of broadband infrastructure in rural areas, and it was decided to support construction in those areas, and the one aspect was that the built infrastructure should be available to all operators on non-discriminatory terms, on equal terms. So that's how the RAIN project was born. And the main goal of the project is to help eliminate the e-divide between rural areas and cities. RAIN stands for Rural Area Information Technology Broadband Network, and it's being implemented by two separate stages, separate projects. The first project was implemented in 2005-2008, and the second is being implemented now. It started in 2009, and we're planning to implement it until the March of 2013. RAIN 1 was implemented by the Institute of Mathematics and Informatics, public company Plačiuostis Internetas, Ministry of Transport and Communications, and also the Ministry of Education and Science. In total, more than 3,300 kilometers of fiber optical lines were built, not including other 3,000 kilometers that were rented from private operators to provide services to rural areas. More than 500 network nodes were installed, and all Lithuanian rural elderates were interconnected and connected to municipalities. The value of the project was 21 million euro, and it was partly funded by European Regional Development Fund. Well, after implementation of the first stage, broadband services were available to 330 schools, all 467 Lithuanian elderates, and more than 300,000 inhabitants of Lithuania's rural areas. Here you can see the map of the infrastructure built in the first stage of the project. As you can see, this network is not interconnected in between. It was 51 separate, isolated fiber optical networks that were not interconnected together. After implementation of the first stage of the project, a lot of villages were not connected to fiber optical infrastructure, and there were no other possibilities to provide broadband access in there. We have made a lot of conversations, discussions with private operators, and we discovered that there are a lot of existing last mile infrastructure, especially in rural areas, where there are in general copper lines. And here you can see the map with fixed infrastructure objects that belong to private operators. Red and white ones do not have the transmission that are necessary to provide broadband services. Also in Lithuania we have a lot of radio towers. We have a few thousand towers that are providing voice services in the whole country. So most of them also do not have the transmission to provide broadband services. So we have investigated that private operators have existing sufficient last mile infrastructure which they cannot use to provide broadband services, because they do not have the missing part between the backbone of their network to the last mile infrastructure object. So that was the main idea of the project RAIN 2, of the second stage. And it is being implemented by two partners. It's the Ministry of Transport and Communications, and also public company Plačiuosius internetas. We are building additional 4.4 thousand kilometers of fiber optics, interconnecting more 770 small towns and villages in rural areas, and also, connecting 2.5 thousand objects, including operators, towers, last mile, fixed infrastructure objects, education institutions, libraries, public internet centers, and other. The value of the second stage of the project is more than 50 million euros. The project is also funded by the European Regional Development Fund. So if we had such a view of the network after RAIN 1, after RAIN 2, we're planning to see a picture like this. In total, about 10,000 kilometers of fiber optical lines will be in use, and more than 1.2 thousand areas, small towns, villages will be interconnected by this infrastructure. Here is the view how it should look like if private operators would use the built infrastructure and their existing last mile infrastructure in whole area of Lithuania. it would be possible to cover up to 98% of the whole territory. The main principles of our network are open access. All network operators can use the infrastructure with no tenders or anything. The second principle is technological neutrality, because the whole network is built on exclusively fiber optics. There is no problem to integrate existing infrastructure of private operators. Also, the key principle is that the infrastructure is being built only in places where it does not exist, or where the capacity of existing infrastructure is not enough. Also, the selected technical solutions are long-term solutions, and we're planning that it would meet the needs of the users, of the operators, for a period at least 10 years. The service delivery model. It's important that our company manages the network, and it provides wholesale services for the operators. Our company does not provide retail services for the end users. So we are providing transmission services on optical fibers, multiplexed optical fibers, and data transmission services at 100 megs and 1 gig. So, thank you.
So we have a couple of minutes. I wanted to just ask you quickly, you're halfway through RAIN 2. It's obviously the larger part of the project. How is progress? Maybe you can give others in the room who may be thinking about such projects some advice on what can go wrong and what takes longer than you expect it to.
For today, we have half of the fiber optical lines built. We have 2,500 built, and the main problem is landowners. If there are no rules at the national level, there will be a lot of problems with landowners. Yeah. Everything else goes well. We are now starting the stage of equipment installed, and we have already started to provide services on the new infrastructure built. Today we have agreements with 34 operators that provide services on our network.
And if people want to contact you to get more information, you should probably tell them to go to the website first so that we don't overwhelm you with people saying, how do we do this? But also I hope people will be able to contact you, because this is clearly something which is going to be of a lot of interest to a lot of different member states.
Yes, there is my email at the presentation, and it should be available on download. And also you can find more information on our website. It's plačiajuostis.lt.
We'll see it from the slides. Okay, thank you very much.